F1 returned after its autumn break with an absolutely incredible weekend of racing at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Saturday's sprint race delivered an unforgettable half hour of action. Qualifying threw up all the surprises you could ever want, and Sunday's race was incredible as well. Sadly for the Drivers' Championship battle though, Lando Norris was outscored by Max Verstappen by a total of 5 points, slimming his hopes to almost nothing. However, the 5-second penalty that Lando Norris received late in the race for gaining an advantage by leaving the track has split opinions. Was he forced off by Verstappen, or was it fair? And if Russell got a penalty for forcing a driver off the track at turn 12, why didn't Verstappen? Today, I'll check out what the drivers and team bosses are saying, including Toto Wolff's wild accusations. So don't go anywhere. With 6 races remaining in the 2024 F1 season, Lando Norris had to take just less than 9 points per race out of Max Verstappen's Drivers' Championship lead to overtake him on the final race of the season. What couldn't happen was Verstappen outscoring Norris over the weekend, but in Austin, that was exactly what happened. 2 points in the sprint and 3 from the race means Lando now sits 57 points behind his title rival, meaning he needs a little over 11 points per weekend, a mountain which will likely prove too tall to climb. After losing 2 points to Verstappen in the sprint race, Norris found some luck in qualifying, with an excellent first run being defended by George Russell bringing out a red flag during the second runs. While Lando had an excellent lap 1 in the sprint race, gaining 2 places at turn 1, he had an awful turn 1 when it really mattered during the Grand Prix. His error was not shutting the door on Max Verstappen by taking the inside line, leaving it wide open for the Dutchman to drive through, who was followed by both Ferraris as Norris was pushed wide. It was a controversial move from Verstappen that would be heavily scrutinized at the end of the race. From that point on, it looked like Norris's fight for a podium was over, as Verstappen and the Ferraris drove off down the road, but both McLaren started to find some really impressive lap times late on in their first stint. They created a big tyre offset, allowing them to attack on fresher hard tyres in their second stint. Norris was chasing down Verstappen and got DRS with 13 laps to go. For the next 10 laps, the pair had a superb battle as Verstappen held off his rival before Norris eventually overtook him on lap 52 at turn 12, albeit off the track. The title protagonists went side by side into the tight corner, with Verstappen on the inside and Norris on the outside, with little to separate them at the exit. Verstappen also went off the track in his defense as he lost the position. On the last lap of the race, the stewards announced Norris had a 5-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Norris crossed the line 4.1 seconds ahead of Verstappen, so dropped behind the reigning world champion in the final classification. There was a lot of discussion post-race about whether the penalty was warranted, as Verstappen left the track while defending, with many people arguing he forced Norris off. Earlier on in the race, George Russell had received a 5-second penalty at the exact same corner for forcing Valtteri Bottas wide. The stewards' document after the race revealed why Lando had received the penalty, which was actually downgraded from the standard 10-second penalty, which would have seen him finish behind his teammate. The important part of the document is that the stewards deemed that Norris was not ahead at the apex of the corner, and therefore lost his right to the corner and should have let Max Verstappen pass. Norris was briefly ahead in the braking zone in the run-up to the corner, but once the turning phase started, he was always behind Verstappen. The opinion of many pundits backed up the stewards' decision, as by the letter of the law, Lando did gain an advantage by leaving the track, as he did not have the position on corner entry. While it seemed fairly clear-cut, Toto Wolff brought the stewarding of the entire race into question by calling the decision-making biased, highlighting Verstappen's turn 1 move in particular. But before I talk about that, if you enjoy our content and want to catch more daily F1 news, then please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Thanks a lot. So, the Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff was very unimpressed with some of the officiating during the United States Grand Prix. Wolff described the calls as biased after his driver George Russell was given a 5-second time penalty for forcing Valtteri Bottas off at turn 12. His reasoning behind it was the fact that Verstappen had gotten away with forcing Lando Norris off track at turn 1 on the first lap. Russell was unimpressed with his penalty, reacting with astonishment. "What?" when told of it during the race. Shortly afterwards, Wolff came on his radio and told him, "Total joke, George, with a penalty. Total joke." At the end of the race, Russell asked his team whether Verstappen had been penalised for the incident at the start of the race. Wolff answered, no, he didn't get a penalty. And at the end, Lando got a penalty for being forced off and overtaken on the outside. I guess it's a bit biased decision-making, but, not surprised. The stewards ruled that Russell failed to leave enough width for Bottas's car on the outside. The driving standard guidelines provide that when overtaking on the inside, the driver must not force the other car off the track and must leave a fair and acceptable width for the car being overtaken, they noted. This did not occur on this occasion. However, in mitigation, a 5-second penalty is imposed instead of the standard 10-second penalty because the stewards determined that the forcing off track was not deliberate and Russell was in control of the car at all times. Many fans pointed to Russell's penalty as reasoning for Verstappen to be penalised for forcing Norris off the track at the same point, but the situations were very different. In Russell's case, he was the overtaking car on the inside of the corner and was not ahead at the apex, so had to leave space for Valtteri to stay on track, which he did not, essentially gaining a position by forcing his opponent off track. This image of the two incidents side by side was doing the rounds and being used as evidence that Verstappen should have been penalised because he left the track to do what Russell did. However, the image fails to show the position at the apex of the corner or highlight the context of each move. Wolff called out the stewards, telling Sky F1 after the race that their decision-making in Austin was inconsistent. With Valtteri, it wasn't even a race. In the sprint, we saw a few of those incidents that were exactly the same and weren't penalised when racing for positions, real positions actually. Receiving that penalty is just completely odd and bizarre. He went on to imply that the stewards were biased towards certain drivers. I think we know why, but I can't say that on television. Sometimes there are correlations when there is decision-making that is a bit interesting. It was a position he doubled down on in a number of interviews after the race, saying that the FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem should investigate what Wolff perceives as targeted inconsistencies in stewarding decisions. The confusion over the decisions made by the stewards didn't stop with Toto Wolff. The McLaren team were also completely baffled by the decisions made during the Grand Prix. After the race, Lando Norris called out Verstappen for going off the track to make his overtakes and defense work. I tried. He also went off the track, so if he goes off the track, clearly he's gone in way too hard and also gained an advantage by doing what he did. But I don't make the rules, so he defends by going off the track, he overtakes by going off track. But I'm not going to complain about it. I think Max drove well, he defended well, and we had a good race together, but the rules are the rules. Lando's team principal Andrea Stella backed him up, saying, "My view is the way the stewards interfered with a beautiful piece of motorsport was inappropriate, because both cars went off track, so both cars gained an advantage." While McLaren are completely correct to question the decisions made by the stewards in regard to Lando's corner 12 pass and Max's lap 1 turn 1 pass, their issue should probably be with the rules rather than those enforcing them. Verstappen isn't just an excellent driver, he's also a master of the rulebook in the same vein as Fernando Alonso. Verstappen knows that lap 1 turn 1 incidents are rarely punished, so when Lando left the door open for Max to make a late lunge, he gladly took the chance. Lando admitted after the race that he drove like a muppet at turn 1 and invited the overtake. Then, at the turn 12 incident, Verstappen again knew that as long as he was ahead at the apex of the corner, then as the overtaking car, Lando would lose his right to the corner, even if he went off track himself. So while Norris and his team have every right to be frustrated by their result in Austin, it is the FIA they need to be frustrated with. What did you think of the US Grand Prix? Did you agree with all the officiating, or do you think the FIA are biased in their decision-making like Toto Wolff? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, make sure to check out our merch store at f1reverse.com. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.